Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. And as you know, I love showcasing and highlighting the fabulous women of the Caribbean. And this week, my guest is Gizelle Riley. She's a global storyteller, educator, writer, speaker, and creator of the Digital Boss Babe, a podcast based in Kingston, Jamaica. She is absolutely passionate about sharing stories of powerhouse women and empowering passionate professionals to create magnetic, and she says non-boring brands. She has spent over a decade working in media and communications, helping hundreds of businesses build their brand, launch successful campaigns, and increase their global impact across diverse industries. Her work has been featured in Huffington Post, Virgin, Thrive Global, Caribbean Posh, and many, many more. As a brand story strategist and master NLP practitioner, she is on a mission to help women step into their power and position themselves as industry icons so that they can increase their impact, income, and influence. And she shares with me that when she's not binge watching Mad Men, we're friends here on Netflix with her son Gabriel, you can find this outgoing introvert, and we'll talk about that, having dance battles at home with her husband and business partner, Kevin. So, ladies, my guest this week, as I said, is Gizelle Riley. And Gizelle, welcome to This Woman Can. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I listened to your show.
Oh,
I gotta tell you, I love your voice. I love, I love how you get so deep with the questions, and I love how you're able to bring your guests into just sharing more of themselves. So I'm really pumped to be here.
Thank you. So hopefully I can work my magic on you today.
you.
So Gizelle, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, well, the Cliff Notes version of my journey, right, is that when I hit 30, which was a couple of years ago, I entered what you would call a quarter life crisis. Yeah, because
you millennials.
No, but like I was depressed, for a lack of a better term. I
Right.
got tired of seeing people just get promotions, that I
Right.
knew I was best suited for. I was
Yeah.
like an anxious mess, over the rise and fall of my business, which actually started at age 21, but I was so nervous and afraid that I didn't start anything again, like until obviously
Right.
years later.
Yeah.
And I was just, I like to say chicken shit. Can I say curse words on your podcast?
You can
I'm
say
sorry.
whatever you can say whatever you like on my podcast.
Awesome. I was too scared to pursue that other venture. And I was also super, super cheap because, I would just rather scour the bowels of Google, than to invest in myself with courses and stuff like that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So there were several nights, where I'd be crying on my bathroom floor, asking God for a change because I didn't know what was happening to me. I did the vision boards, I was praying. I figured I was a good person. I deserve, these things. Why isn't, life happening for me in the way that I had envisioned it?
Right.
But then one night, I guess he got fed up of me too. He said, Gizelle, get up off your butt and do something. So I listened, and I just did. I had to do something, and I figured it was anything, right? What he told me to do. And that's when the words digital boss babe came to mind.
Okay.
And I just couldn't shake it. And he said to me, do a podcast. And actually it was from doing that podcast and learning about the story of other women that I was able to dive deeper into my own personal story and just deconstruct what made me a wonderful human. And it told me how I was going to use my gifts of communications to serve the world, which is kind of funny, right? I have years in communication and I'm doing this for people, to let them be better communicators over the years. But my narrative was different. I was holding myself back. So once I went on that journey, I got phenomenal results. I got promotions within a year. I tripled my income within that time as well. Again, as you know, I started my podcast, which
Yeah.
thousands of amazing women across the globe listen to, and just finally living within my purpose of, serving women through brand communications training. And that has been my journey so far.
So thank you for that, Gizelle. So from the listeners who may not be familiar with brand communication, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you help women with, how you help them?
Okay, so with brand communications, and I'm going to take it a step further to talk to the brand story strategizing part of it. So what I do as a brand story strategist, I help women find their story and show them how to leverage it so that they can connect with their audience and that they can step into their power to be a leader, right?
Right.
So once we found your story, we work out how you're going to relate that on interviews, how you're going to engage people when you network with them, and how you're able to, for lack of a better term, super blast your message to the message. You
Right.
use media to let people see who you are so that you can position yourself as an expert.
Fabulous, fabulous. So I get that. We may have some examples later down the line. Now, I was quite struck by what you said about, you used a couple of words there, which I know a lot of women would probably use, in the fact you said, on one hand, you deserve to be in a particular position, but on the other hand, you said you felt you weren't worthy. And both of those are very much a dichotomy because you deserve it, but you're also feeling unworthy. So, what do you think led you to feeling this feeling of unworthiness?
I Over the years, and I think that a lot of women can identify with this because I think it's a big social construct. I think that as women, we are expected to do and be everything. So when given the opportunity to do something for ourselves, it sends us haywire. Like, okay, am I really supposed to be doing this? Because all the other balls are going to drop.
Yes,
So
yes,
that was a big thing for me. I had to balance, saying to myself that I know that I deserve it because on paper I deserve it and I know the power that I have within myself. But can I actually handle everything? And if I really can't handle all of the balls that I've been juggling, then maybe it's not for me.
yeah.
So that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, yeah. And what's interesting there, and again, this is something I coach women on, is that you didn't think that you could almost go out and get support because you're not there to do everything. What
Yeah.
you need to do is, how do I get to the goal and what are the resources I need to get there? And me saying that I need some help or support to help me on this journey is not a sign of weakness, because often we think, and I always go back this, the Black woman narrative, being strong, this, we have to do everything, we have to shoulder all the burdens, and that if we're asking for support, then we're not living up to this ideal of the Black strong woman narrative, when actually the strength is actually finding and admitting that, look, I hold my hand up, I need some support here.
Exactly.
So I'm really glad you shared that, because there's a lot of us that go through it, and I have been there myself too. So, I totally empathize. So, Gizelle, let's move on a little bit. Share with us one of your biggest challenges and how you overcame that and the lessons you learned.
I mean, the biggest challenge, going back to what we're speaking about, I would put it within the context of self-sabotage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know, and I would have all of these, again, multi-talented, multi-skilled. I would have all of these wonderful ideas and forget about actually not knowing how to strategize it for myself, because it's
yeah,
different when you're doing it for other
yeah,
people. When you're
yeah,
doing it for yourself, you get caught up with all of the creative aspects of it. But the challenge I face, and I still face to this day, is that, am I good enough? And that's just real. Am I good enough to be doing these things? And as I said, I still go through it every now and again, but
Yeah.
how I overcome it, besides from looking at what's actually real, that, I have the credentials, I have people, that I have clients that message me and say, oh, Gizelle, something you did for me last year was amazing. Look, this has been in my journal, how you've helped me. At the same time, I'm saying to myself, oh, I helped her, but what about other people? So another way that I overcome it is to just share my story with other powerful women.
Right.
Because
Right.
even though you know the answers within yourself, sometimes they give you the kick in the butt to say,
Yeah.
okay, no, Gizelle, or whoever else you're speaking to, you are awesome. Cut the crap.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about self-sabotage. So could you share with us how that sabotage, how that inner saboteur shows itself? Because it can be very, very sneaky.
Yeah, it normally it normally shows itself when I'm about to do something big.
Yeah.
I've made all the plans, I've put everything in place, but when it's time to launch it, I was like, oh, okay, is it really time to launch it? Am I really supposed to be doing this? And but again, besides from prayer, another thing that gets me through it is to stop being so goddamn selfish, because that really is a selfish way of thinking. You have to think about who you're serving, as opposed to just being with your own insecurities and wondering, am I supposed to be doing this? No. Again, I got to keep myself in the butt sometimes too.
Excellent. Because I know for me, my saboteur tendencies come out in the form of procrastination. And one of the things I realized when I was doing my end of year review was that I'd done lots and lots of things. I'd achieved lots of things, and it was a real reflection process for me. But what I realized was that I'd achieved lots of things, but not the things I'd actually set myself as the goals. And yes, they were all good things, but you had sabotaged myself by doing other things, not what I was supposed to be focusing on. So once I had that realization, like, oh, hell, yeah, that was good, but actually didn't get you towards the goal you were trying to get to in the first place. Everybody else thinks it's fantastic on the external, but then I'm thinking, ooh, trying to regroup. So like I said, the saboteur can actually show up, and we don't realize, like you say, sometimes that it's actually acting there. So we talked about the saboteur and stuff like that, and you do all the brand communication. But if you had to start over from scratch, Gizelle, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Start over from scratch. Okay.
Yeah.
That means I can go back in time, right?
You can go back and you can rewind.
Yes.
I'm probably showing my age there, because in my head I had a cassette tape. So,
I listen to cassette tapes too, man. But I would go back and I'd speak to the younger Gizelle, who was about probably 19, right? When she's just entering the workforce. I would empower her daily, letting her know that you got this, you're awesome. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Stop trying to fit within society's definition of success.
Yes.
Create your own. And I think that would be the most pivotal thing for me that I would have needed to recognize early on. Because, we often see that success is defined as, okay, the 5-bedroom house and 3 BMWs in the driveway, stuff like that. And while that's great and that's good for whoever it is that suits, that isn't necessarily something that you require within your soul. You know what I'm saying? So you can serve people and you can be happy doing it and you can make a lot of money doing it, but you don't need to feel restricted to say that I'm not a success because I haven't had all of these other things.
You I think you define the success, and one of the things I've realized over time is that the definition of success changes. at different stages of your life. Like you said, at one point it would have been all the external trappings, the big house, the cars, the jewelry, the clothes, the shoes. And then fast forward, and I know when I was definitely transitioning, I don't think it's the same for you, that when I transitioned from the corporate world to entrepreneurship, the challenge I had is that I was still measuring my success based on the corporate measures. And that took me down a path that was very difficult to get out of, because I couldn't understand why I wasn't achieving, and I was beating myself up for not achieving. And then suddenly realized, well, actually, the question I had to ask myself is, if you wanted those measures of success, why did you leave corporate?
Exactly.
Yeah. What is it you actually want in this new career life you've built for yourself? And that was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be working those hours. I don't want to be chasing that. It's not about the money. I want to go to the beach when I want to go to the beach. I want to spend time with my family. So yeah, like you say, the measures definitely change. So that was your measures then, as you said. You talked about, think about the trappings. How do you define you? How does success feel for you now?
Success feels like waking up every day knowing that I'm living in my purpose, which for me is God's purpose.
Right.
Just listening to him and serving women who need to be healed, not only personally, but professionally as well. Because to me, those are my two loves. I love the personal side, because if you're going to be better professionally, you need to nurture that side of you. So waking up and engaging with women and creating experiences, whether it be workshops or, virtual summits, or just engaging with them on podcasts, that is my part of my definition of success. And on the more family related side, I have that already, which yeah, my husband, and a joyful son who keeps me on my toes every day. So for the most part, I'm pretty much living in my success.
Excellent. I love that. I absolutely love that. So just touching on that a little bit. I call it the myth of work-life balance is something that a lot of women strive for. You have a young family, you have a happy relationship, you have a career. How do you, and I'm not going to use the word balance because I just don't think there is such a thing as balance. I think again I've got a whole different construct on that. But how do you make it work for you so that I suppose all involved are happy or satisfied in what's happening?
It's funny, because as soon as you said balance, I'm like, there ain't no balance.
Yeah, there's no balance.
I'm not balancing anything. I'm just doing. And that's another thing that I had to give myself grace with, because before I thought it was a bad thing that in one moment I felt frazzled, as a professional, and frazzled as a mom, and how am I doing these things? But there's, I just wanted to say again, there's no such thing as balance, so it's something that you are aware of, and a lot of other women, we need to let them know, just give yourself grace. Somebody said to me once that they prefer to call it harmony. Just living in the space where you're just accepting that this is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I accept that some things won't happen as I want it to happen. Now, going back to your real question, how do I make it work for me? I ask for support. And my husband is a really big he's a cheerleader. He's a big support in that regard. So even now he's upstairs with the baby, he's taking care of my son. When I need time to do editing, when we need time to have meetings, he takes care of life on that end. And whether or not somebody has a partner, because we spoke about this earlier, you have to be willing to ask for help, because you
Yes.
cannot do it
Yeah.
all on your own.
Yeah.
And another thing is that other people can have strengths that you don't have, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like my, I call it a family business. My mom is great at administrative stuff, right? I let her handle that. I ask for help in that regard. So I just have my team, people who I trust, people who I know, are highly competent to do things. So I make it work by bringing them in and having them support me.
Fabulous. And that's a competency of a good leader, because a good leader or a strong leader knows they don't have to know everything to get the job done. What they do need to have is the people who know how to do the things that complement their things. And I think that's something, again, when we're trying to be everything, all things to all men, we don't have to be. What we need is to make sure we have the support network, the team, as you say, that play their strengths to our perceived weaknesses. Yeah, so I definitely love that. So you talked about being at work and helping women navigate their careers and their lives. So what are some strategies that can help women achieve more prominence in their role at work?
Okay, so one strategy I find out a lot. Stop apologizing. So I was getting into one point. I'm going to get into this one because I'm really passionate about it. I find that as women, we apologize so much, and it took me a while to get here as well, because I fall victim to it sometimes. Stop apologizing. I remember I was doing a video shoot with a bunch of amazing entrepreneurs, and I found that anytime that the woman or the woman would make slip-ups, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm like, "Okay, it's okay. You're in front of a camera. People get nervous. Okay, you don't need to say you're sorry." But the men wouldn't apologize. They would just stop and start again. And I don't know where it comes from, where we feel the need that we need to apologize for making quote unquote mistakes.
Yes.
But we apologize for nothing. So we need to stop doing that. If something doesn't happen that perfectly within the organization, unless it's something like it costs the company millions of dollars, you don't need to apologize.
Yeah. And you're so right there, because we apologize in emails, or we ask permission for a lot of things, in meetings. Do you mind if I say something? Well, actually, why am I asking, do you mind if I say something? Or, apologies, but, or, and there's ways, and I sometimes I'll be writing an email, and it's so pervasive that you don't even realize it's such second nature, that I will look at him and go, hang on, why am I saying that? Why am I saying just? I'm just this. Like, it's not a just, it's actually very important, So I totally agree with you about the apologizing. But again, I think it's always a work in progress, because it's so ingrained in us. So how did you get past that?
I wouldn't say that. As I said, still, it's something that I still deal with. So nothing that I really fully passed, but just having the recognition that, hey, stop doing this. You tell other women to stop doing this, you ought to stop doing it yourself. You are not less than anybody else. And something else that women can do in the workplace as well, that can help with their positioning. Women do it, men do it. But when you're speaking, like say you're in a meeting, right? And you're having a conversation, sometimes people feel the need to chime in, over what you're saying. And some people, they just talk a lot. It could just, be, it may not be their intention, to do that. But a lot of the times it is. Don't take it for granted. What you have to say is worthy. So if you're speaking and they're speaking over you, one way you can do that, you can say, "Oh, excuse me." I was saying something. Thank you for sharing your point, but I would like to continue.
Yeah.
You know, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is elevate your voice a little bit louder.
Right.
Because when you do that, you know, it's going to override what the person is saying. And they're either going to stop talking, you know, or they're going to get, or they're just eventually going to get quiet, and everybody's going to listen to what you have to say.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And if I can just add to that as well, and if you're a woman in the meeting where you're seeing someone being spoken over, a good thing to do also is to say, hang on a minute, just stop that person speaking and say, look, I think so and so has something they want to say, you know.
Yes.
And just, I think, again, I'm very much about women, supporting women. It's not a competition. It's all about collaboration here. So how do we make that work? And there's little things we can do. There's things like, and one of the best terms I heard was what they call heap eating, where a woman has said something, a good idea, then a man comes up with it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's brilliant," but she just said that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, were we in the same meeting?
yeah. So yes, that's a really good point. Really good point. So Gizelle, what do you think?
And
oh, sorry, carry on.
Oh no, there's this one more thing that I wanted to add. Like in the meeting context at work, right?
Yes.
Never leave a meeting without saying something. You know, we tend to go into meetings and we just listen and consume. But if you're just always doing that, people are not going to see you as somebody that has something valuable to say.
Yeah, that's very valid.
Don't worry about, a lot of times, again, negative self-talk. We may think to ourselves, oh, our idea is stupid. Please stop thinking your ideas are stupid. Your ideas are not stupid. You will not be within the position that you're in no matter what capacity you're in. You know, you have the expertise. You have a valuable point of view. So always make sure, even if it's at the end of the meeting, because maybe you want to wet your feet, you know, you're not ready to just, you know, from the get-go say this, that, and that, and that. No, at the end of the meeting, if at all possible, close the meeting and say, okay, this is my overview. This is my feedback of what I've seen happening. Give your commentary. Say whether you think it's a good idea. Say how we can make things better. You know, and then that's just something small that you can do to help you position yourself, you know, as a leader within the workplace.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. And I think that something you touched on there is that we also need to realize that no organization employs someone in order to fail. They employ you because they believe you can do the job. You know, so I think that's a great point for you to raise there. So Gizelle, what do you think holds women back from going for their goals?
We just don't think we're good enough. And I don't know where it came, and I don't know where it comes from. You know, I mean, I think the Harvard Business Review calls it a confidence gap. And again, always talking into the bigger social context, socially, right, we typically raise our boys with the expectations that they're going to do great things, that they're going to be leaders. Whereas with women, we typically socialize them to say, okay, you're going to take care of the home, and in more modern times, you're going to be a great employee, or maybe even a great manager, you know. But we don't really encourage them to go for more if that's something that they really want to do, right? And because they haven't been encouraged, you know, from that early stage in the game, again, they start to wonder, okay, am I really cut out for this? Do I really have the tools for this? You know, and I think there was a study that was done. The numbers may be a little bit fuzzy, but if a woman sees a job, for example, right? Even if they're qualified for it, even if they're overqualified for it, I think they are more likely, do you remember the percentage, more likely not to apply to that job for whatever reason. They don't think that they're able to do it. However, conversely, if a man sees that same position and they don't have all the competencies required, they're going to apply for it anyway. And the study also showed further down that they are, I think, 16% more likely, if they did apply, to get the job.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's that confidence gap that we need to work on, and we need to, help our girls realize. And again, this is why I'm a brand story strategist, because it's not just, for me, it's not just about telling your story. This is how I got from point A to point B. It's about controlling the narrative that you tell yourself, because the stories that you tell yourself is far more important than the stories that you tell other people.
And then also knowing that you control the ending of that story. So thanks for that. So I love that. So Gizelle, share with us a success quote or a mantra that you use and why it's meaningful for you.
Oh, there's so many. How about the one that came to my mind instantly is Richard Branson's "Screw it, let's do it." So when I find myself just overthinking too much, I'm like, screw it, let's just do it. Screw it, do it.
Excellent. Fantastic. And if you could choose your own mentor, who would it be and why?
Ooh. I have to choose one, right? Okay, it would be.
We can narrow it down. Come on, let's see. I'm always interested in this question.
It's so funny because it isn't. I'm all about women empowerment, right?
Yeah.
But it's not actually a woman. At least the one that not one that comes to my mind readily. It is Tony Robbins.
Okay. You and my husband can live. You and my husband can live. He's a big Tony Robbins fan.
Yeah. So I like it. I like his work with mindset. I admire his journey, and how he's on a mission to just bring people up to the best versions of themselves. And that's another thing too, because even though Tony Robbins comes to my mind, and something that I've noticed, in this space, is that we don't have that many women being represented as leaders. Where are our examples? We need that, and that's something that I'm really passionate about, because I don't want it to be a situation where more of us are constantly saying, these are the men that come to my mind. We need more examples out there. And they're there.
Definitely. And I find that all the time doing this podcast. One of the things I found out, and it's amazing, it's much the fact I kind of niched into the Caribbean, because again, I think it's a really overlooked. We have those examples, those persons we can look to within our own communities. We just don't see it.
And they may be a little bit, they may not want to put themselves out there.
Yes, very true.
I found that too. So we have to encourage them and say, no, we got to put you out there. We got to let the world see you.
We're gonna
think about all of the wonderful people that you're impacting.
Excellent. So Gizelle, we're coming down to our last few questions. But what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
What have I learned about myself throughout my career? I realized that I am a pretty awesome person, and
hey, big clap.
And I have no problem in saying that, because after years of not realizing it, it's good to sit in this place to realize my worth. And again, always thinking in the context of other women, we're all awesome. We all have that wonderful thing about us, whether it be talents, or or just our personality, there is something great inside of us, and we have these nuggets of wisdom that we have to share, right?
Yeah.
You just got to own your awesome.
Yes.
So I've
Yeah.
realized that throughout my career, of years of probably being put down or not getting to places where I want to go. But after a while, I said, no, I am great. I do deserve this. I've been equipped with everything. So that's something that I've realized. Another thing that I've realized throughout my career is that what I have to say, again, is valuable because I already have the expertise to say it. And a lot of the times, too, a lot of the people who say things, they don't know what they're saying anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
They really don't.
Yeah.
So why should I, who know what I'm saying, not speak up? And another thing that I've realized in my career is that I was raised to not pay attention to what people are saying about you, right? And there is truth in that.
Yeah.
However, if you have this picture of yourself of who you want to be, a great leader, you have to pay attention to what people are saying about you, but obviously you filter out the things that don't add value to you, and filter out the things that don't make sense and the source where it's coming from. But if you don't listen to the narratives that are out there about you, you can't be a better human. You can't be a better leader. Right. So that's something that I have learned throughout my career.
Fabulous. And can I just say, I love that you own that you're awesome.
Thank you.
Because and again, I have a little bee in my bonnet sometimes that I see some very successful women, and all of them, to a T, pretty much 99% of them would downplay their achievements, and there's this level of they're uncomfortable talking about what they've done or how they got there, and we're taught this level of humility and not to brag. I'm like, wow, and I'm not a big fan of it. I'm honest, I'm not a big fan. Because most of us have worked incredibly hard to get to where we are. So why are we hiding? And why are we feeling like we almost have to be embarrassed about the fact we've got to where we are? So I think we have to own our awesome. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So where would we find you on a Saturday morning, typically at 10 a.m., Gizelle?
Recording podcasts. In my home, talking to amazing women.
Fabulous. I know you're multitasking all the way through.
Yeah.
And lastly, what does it mean to you to be your own hero?
I mean, it means everything, as my mother and my grandma would say to me, every toe have to stand up on their own bottom. So if God forbid, my husband weren't around, or I just lose everybody, right? What is left? Am I going to shrink? Am I going to die? Am I not going to value myself? No. I've been brought into this world for a reason. I have to appreciate who I am, and that means recognizing that I am that hero or shero, as some people would say.
Yes.
And there's always, as long as I'm on this earth, there's always something that I am here to do. So
Fabulous. So thank you so much for that, Gizelle. It's been wonderful talking this morning. And yes, it is morning, and she's right, 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We're doing podcasts. So if our listeners want to connect with you or hear more about your work and what you do, how can they do that?
Okay, so they can mosey on over to GizelleRiley.com. That's GIZELLERILEY.com. Or, they can check me out on LinkedIn. I love connecting with new people. And on my Instagram.
Yeah.
My Instagram is the Digital Boss Babe Podcast. And there is normally where you get updates of when I interview amazing women. Coming up with Janice Sutherland.
Yeah, I'll be in that hot seat. So Gizelles, I'll be sure to add everything to the show notes so people can, if they haven't got pens and paper handy, they can quickly run to it. So thank you so much for your time today. It has been wonderful to connect. Thank you.
Thank you. You're such a warm human.
Oh.
I love you so much, and I love your questions.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. You don't even know how much you've been blowing my mind, because I know you're interviewing me, right? But I checked out your book on Amazon, and boom, nuggets of wisdom all over the place. It's like, this is amazing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.